As runners, we all challenge ourselves in ways we never thought possible, pushing the boundaries of what we're capable of to smash through targets and set ourselves new, bigger and better ones.
This awesome hobby that we share gives us one thing in common, and it brings us together as a community. Whether you're working towards completing your first parkrun or you're a veteran of the sport who's run 100 ultra marathons, we all know the feeling of reaching that maxed out effort and our own red line.
Welcome to our podcast, where your hosts Brett Elsmore and Andy Maguire discuss the struggles, the successes and everything in between on our running journeys, as we all work towards the next time we're running the red line. Right, we are recording. So, welcome everybody to episode 2 of Running the Red Line. We've made it to episode 2. We are here. I am Brett, and to the side of me over here is Andy. How you doing, mate?
Good. I'm all right. Yeah, I'm not too bad. It's Friday night and feeling all right. Isn't that a S Club 7 song?
Quite
Looking kind of good,
yeah.
feeling all right. Yeah,
quite possibly. Well, you are
words.
a man of 90s bands.
Just saying, 90s pop culture would be my mastermind chosen subject.
Yeah.
Ask me anything about the Venga Boys.
When is the Venga bus coming?
Oh yeah, it's absolutely. It is. I'm still waiting to get on that thing. I've absolutely loved the Venga Boys for a long time.
Amazing. So how's your evening been so far? Sorry, I am a bit late to the recording. We should have started recording 50 minutes ago, but yeah, I had to.
That's such is life on a Friday. It's we said like last week, we've both got lives, we've both got jobs, so we can't really, expect, to everything to go swimmingly every week. So, but no, I'm not gonna. Let's face it, I'm 38. I ain't really doing much on a Friday night these days.
Well, no, never am I. Yeah, I had to pop out and get a few things from Tesco's because I had a shocker of a morning this morning. I went to make my morning coffee, put my portafilter into my grinder, and halfway through the grind ran out of beans. And I thought I had another bag of beans in the cupboard, and of course I didn't. So I thought it's all right. I'll just go with a single shot of coffee rather than double this morning. Then went to the fridge and only had half the amount of milk I would use for a coffee. And then made my porridge for my breakfast. And I'd run out of blueberries and fruit and stuff and bananas. So I thought I'll check in the cupboard for the emergency tinned fruit and found a tin of mango pulp. And I thought, that'll be all right. Chunks of mango in some stuff. Opened up the tin and it was basically mango juice. So I had a really weak half a cup of coffee and mango juice on porridge for my breakfast. So I needed to go and get a few things. Yeah.
That sounds miserable. It's like a survival story or something. That sounds like post-apocalyptic kind of Walking Dead scenario. So
yeah. But
I was at work today and I got offered. So I was at work and for my job, I have to go around to people's houses. And because we're British, the first question anybody asks me is, do you want a cup of tea or do you want a drink? And I've got to the point in life where I have a quick scan when they say, do you want a cup of coffee? Because I'm not a tea drinker. I'm quite partial to a fruit tea. Don't get me wrong. Don't mind a peppermint tea. But if they offer me a coffee, I'm saying yes. But I have to take a quick scan around the kitchen because if I see the Kenko or the Nescafe Gold Blend, it's just a tap water for me, please. Because if you get given, because I drink my coffee black, if I drink, have you ever drunk instant coffee, just a black instant coffee?
It's the worst thing in the world. Yeah.
It's not for me anymore.
Well,
So luckily,
especially that instant coffee. There is instant coffee that's passable, but yeah, I wouldn't choose instant coffee if I had a
and
choice.
you just know as well that the reason that they're instant coffee drinkers, and I don't want to sound like a dick, but I've gone there, so I'm going to carry on. Is probably because they're not coffee aficionados, are they? They're not coffee.
Yeah, they don't
addicts.
enjoy a cup of coffee. They're drinking it
So
for yeah.
Yeah, so that Kenko was probably bought in 2014, and it's for their sister or their nephew or whatever who comes over once a month. And yeah, anyway, the lady said, "Do you want a coffee?" And I saw the DeLonghi in the corner. I was like, "Yes." She made me a double espresso, and I was
Amazing.
just buzzing. And I was
That's
like,
exactly
yes.
what you want, isn't it?
So yeah, that was, and as well, you'll like this. I went out for a run this morning up the hills and got ready to go to work because me and Laura stayed at her mum's, and I realised I forgot my shoes to go to work, so I had to wear my trail shoes to work. And I was really hoping that someone would ask me about my shoes, but they didn't, because I thought I could try and that might be a good segue for me to tell you the podcast.
Try and squeeze in the ultra chat again.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to try and tell some a random couple that oh yeah, I do. I'm training for an ultra at the moment. I've done a couple of ultras, to be honest. You ever heard of the Worcestershire Way? But yeah, so yeah, that was quite humorous, and I did. And as well, one final anecdote from 12 hours ago. I slept like I was rolling back the years today, like I was in year 6. I slept in my kit last night because Laura's mum's the bedroom that we sleep in. It's so cold in the morning. I knew that if I was cold in the morning, I'd just turn over the other way and I wouldn't get out of bed. So I had to sleep in my thermals, my base layers, because I thought that's my one chance to get out of bed.
Were you not boiling in the night?
No, really nice. If anything, it's a bit chilly, so I'm glad I did. Man. It's quite a cool little room. So it wasn't the most comfortable sleep I've ever had, but needs must, and I needed to. You've got to get the job done, no matter at all costs.
It's cold at the moment. It's cold at the moment, though. The weather is the temperature's properly dropped over the last couple of days. I think it was -6 this morning or last night. I was working from home this morning, but I needed to get up to my shop to use some of the tools and stuff. And when I got up there, inside my shop, it was 0 degrees. So
wow,
I was fully still in my coat and everything, whilst it heated up in the space. But yeah, but mental. And we're choosing to go out and run in this.
I know, but I tell you what, though, this morning, so Laura did her own separate run, but we had like a custody battle of Daisy this morning, because whoever basically wins gets Daisy, and I was like, I'm having Daisy today. We're not divorced or anything. We just really like running with our dog, and because basically we both wanted to, I think what it was, we both wanted to get those Instagram bangers. So because we got up on the top of the hills for our runs at sunrise, and this morning the Malverns looked just incredible. So yeah, Daisy pulled me around for 5 or 6K today, and yeah, crazy. Honestly, it was like being on Oblivion, running down Black Hill this morning, because what she does, Daisy's only 10 kilos. She's basically like a glorified, I don't know, rugby ball. She's not that heavy. But when she's like a bullet down Black Hill and Pinnacle Hill, that 10K with gravity becomes like 100K. And I don't know about you, but whenever I'm running early in the morning with cold weather, like my eyes start like watering, and I'm just running basically trying not to fall over, and managed to stay on 2 feet. So I think that was a success today.
Yeah,
it was really good.
How has training been going this week? Any highlights from your week of training?
Well, I moved my Sunday long run to Thursday because I'm not doing it Sunday anymore, and which was yesterday. Went up the canal and I did a really nice, easy, steady run. So it's the longest I've run on the block so far. So I've extended it to, I was at 20K last week. This week's 23. And yeah, it went really well. It was really nice. I did basically a 10K warm up, and then I did 6K, which is what's that, 4 mile of steady pace, which is in between my easy and goal marathon pace, which went really well. And one thing I noticed, Matt, you might know this, having run for many more years than me, but I got to the end of my run, and I don't wear a heart rate monitor or a strap or anything like that for numerous reasons that I probably won't go into. But my watch, which is consistently inconsistent, so it might be miles off, but at least it says the same thing every week. It said I was at like 170. I was at basically threshold at the end of my easy. And I wondered if that was because it was so cold. I wondered if my heart was compensating for how cold it was.
I'd say it was possibly the cold making your heart rate monitor on your watch not work properly on your cold skin. That's what I'd say was more of a
really
thing than, no way is your heart going to be at 170 when you're running easy. Yes, you run a decent distance, but well, my watch is terrible with heart rate. It either says my heart rate's at 210 beats per minute or I'm dead. So
yeah, you're going to take it with a pinch of salt, haven't you?
Definitely. Wrist-based heart rate is never accurate, and that's one of the reasons I never run to heart rate. I've only ever run to paces rather than zones. I've never tried to work out what my heart rate zones are because I know I'm never going to use it.
That's interesting, because that's what I'm going to try and do this block, because I think previously I've obsessed a little bit about heart rate data.
I mentioned this to you halfway through the Worcester half. I mentioned this to you as well. You were obsessing over heart rate during that race.
I was, and I think since that day, I've realised, well, not realised, but started to worry less about what that little reading says. Because it might not be very trustworthy, and B, because it can spoil a good run, or it can spoil a good effort, or it can, your brain takes over, doesn't it?
Yeah. And the worst time to look at heart rate is during a race. It's never going to be where you want it to be. Number one, especially if you're going for a PB, it's going to be at a place you've never been before because you're pushing your body to a point you've never pushed it to. And the adrenaline is going to be pumping massively, and that's going to be affecting your heart rate. And I'd never look at heart rate during a race. I think I'd terrify myself if I did.
Here's the thing then. How, if you don't run to heart rate and you've run for so many years, how do you calculate what is an easy run to you? Is it quite simply just I can hold a conversation?
Yeah.
Right.
If it feels easy, it must be easy.
Fair enough.
That's basically how I run. I mean, when it gets up to doing a more steady pace or doing a tempo or doing efforts and things like that, I have a specific pace I want to run to. But when it's easy, it's just, does it feel easy? And if it feels easy, my breathing isn't really heavy. I could very easily close my mouth and just breathe out my nose, and I wouldn't be struggling for breath. Then it must be an easy run.
So what about when you're attacking hills, or you're running down a nice steep downhill and you're in an easy block? Are you still following that mantra? Are you still just thinking, if this is easy, then it must be easy, so slow down if I feel like it's too hard?
I guess so. To be honest, the only time I look at pace during a really easy run is when the watch beeps that you've done a mile and tells you what pace you've done in that mile. It's like my Sunday run on Sunday just gone. So I did a little bit longer than I should have. I wanted to do 13 mile, ended up doing 14 and a half. And I wanted to do it easy because I'd done the cross country on the day before and pushed it quite hard in that. So I wanted the Sunday to be easy, but I ended up going a little bit faster because it felt okay. I didn't feel
Yeah.
like I was pushing, and I ended
Yeah.
up running a faster pace, which was more like steady pace than running easy. But I didn't really mind because it didn't feel like too much effort. So I wasn't
Yeah.
trying to run faster. I just ended up running faster. So
Yeah.
as long as it feels like that, I don't really worry too much. The only time I make sure I run easier and make sure I check myself is when I'm doing recovery runs, because that
Right.
is supposed to be recovery pace. But if it's an easy run, if it feels easy, great, it's an easy run.
So another, putting you on the spot now, but another question: how do you determine your easy pace and your recovery pace? What's the difference between the two?
Ooh, good question. As I say, easy to me just feels easy, and it's anywhere between 8 and 8.5 minute miles. So as long as
Right.
I'm somewhere in that range, it must be an easy run. Recovery, normally try and keep it around at 8.5, so it's at that lower end of easy. But sometimes it creeps up again because
Yeah.
recovery runs are basically an easy run, aren't they?
Yeah.
Whereas if I go out to do a run and I say I'm going to do an easy run, it's not
Mm.
recovery. So it can speed up and that's not a problem. But if it is recovery, I'm not going over that 8 minute mile mark. I will
Oh,
make sure if it starts to creep, I'll pull it back.
I've got another question, sir. Um,
Putting your hand up.
Lawrence Court.
That's
Yeah.
brilliant.
So I do forget sometimes we actually are on the radio here, we're on podcast. Just put my hand up to ask a question. Why should you be doing then? This is going to sound like a silly question. Should you be doing recovery runs if you've got nothing to recover from? So
Ooh,
if
that's a good
so
question.
if you've had an easy week, you know, maybe it's your first
Yes.
week of the block,
Yeah.
and you've on your training plan that you've either, bought or someone's written for you or whatever. If it says recovery run Monday and you think, well, I could probably do a bit quicker today, should you stick to the plan, or should you, if your body feels
I
like it could probably go a bit quicker? Is it, what I'm saying is recovery good for your aerobic base, or is it just good for your heart, soul, and mind?
I think it's good for your body, basically,
Yeah.
because even if you've had an easy week, as I said with my easy, it might creep up a little bit more. So even if I've had an easy week, I've still put that mileage into my legs. So
Yeah.
I know that recovery pace will um, loosen up my legs and loosen up all of the muscles and everything better than not running at all. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna get those miles in. I'm gonna get that movement into my body, whether I've put effort and pace in or whether I've just done the mileage anyway.
Yeah. Well,
If
I've
that
got
makes
to a
sense.
point. Yeah, yeah, it does. I've got to a point now. What I've done, I think this is my fifth dedicated sort of training block. I think of so like basically my fifth goal race, and I've got to a point now where I Saturdays and Sundays seem to have been the same now for a long time. I seem to do, you know, I don't really call it a session, but let's say a park run, like a hard park run on a Saturday. Sunday will be a nice long run. I normally always choose to do my long run on a Sunday. A lot of people will do the long run on a Saturday after a park run, won't they? And give themselves
Yeah,
Sunday off. I like to run Saturday and Sunday. And then Monday for me is almost always recovery. And I don't know what it is. It's just my body doesn't know it's Monday, but it seems to think that it does, because it seems to just crave that easy recovery start to the week. And I tell you, I normally feel a bit creaky going into that run, having done, I don't know, maybe up to 20 mile that weekend, or maybe more, 25 miles sometimes. But when I finish that recovery run, I just feel brilliant. It's like, I don't know, it's like the moving version of like yoga, isn't it? It really
yeah,
does get the blood flowing, and it makes you feel better. And just moving at that
100%.
snail pace, whatever that pace is it just feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Getting the blood flowing around the legs is going to start that muscle recovery. So
Yeah,
if moving around is doing that, then it's a positive thing to do. You've just got to be sensible and not be like me. I got into a habit where my recovery days ended up being just as many miles as my Sunday long run days, and
really.
that that's one of the reasons I got injured this time. I think because obviously I did the cross country on the Saturday, pushed it really hard. Went and did Alton Towers half, which was really hilly, and pushed that really hard.
Mm.
And then I should have probably done, I don't know, maybe 5K the next day as recovery and properly had a rest on the Monday. But instead, I ran 12 mile.
Really?
Yeah.
So, what were you, without saying this, without sounding like your dad, what were you thinking? Like, why did you do that? Do you remember why you did it?
I was in a habit of my weekly training was
Yeah,
this many miles. And on a Monday, I ran up to my shop, worked for the day, and ran home from my shop. But
yeah,
I'd got into the habit of the run up to the shop. I'd started extending a little bit, and I just took my usual route and extended the first
yeah,
little bit. And then when I ran home, it ended up being 12 mile. And then the
yeah,
next day, I should have again probably taken it really easy. I decided to run easy, but went to training session, and then that's when the injury started to happen because my hip just started to seize up whilst I was running. Um,
yeah.
and I think it's because I didn't rest properly after a really hard weekend. So
So,
yes,
did you feel
recovery runs are
normal?
brilliant, but if you take them properly and don't
Yeah.
stupid mileage.
So, did you feel normal after that? You know, that Alton Towers run? Like, did you think something's wrong here, or did you not even? Or are you saying that it wasn't the run that injured you? It was obviously the day after run that injured you. Like the damage
Um,
wasn't done by Alton Towers.
I don't think the damage was done by Alton Towers, but I don't think it helped things because
Yeah.
it was such a big effort that I put in the day after a big effort. But what's mad about my injury is my calves were like really sore for the couple of weeks running up
Mm.
to the Alton Towers half. And during the race, it was my calves that I was like, man, these feel like trash. Um, and after the race, it was like, man, my calves are in bits. And it was my hip and my glute that was my eventual injury. And my calves didn't actually end up being anything bad. So
Really? It's
I'm
for,
not sure.
we should probably say, shouldn't we, for sort of context for anyone that doesn't know what we're on about. The Alton Towers half marathon is a run through event, and it's obviously around the theme park, but it's really quite a challenging two lapper, isn't it? For many
Yes.
reasons.
Yeah.
And
Proper undulating.
then you've obviously got the added, you know, problems that you had with traffic as well. And I'm not talking about automobiles. I'm on about people that came for the free roller coasters that thought, yes, I'll do a 5K
Yeah.
in my
And walking
jeans.
in my jeans and shoes
And
and with
then
my backpack on.
all of us half marathoners got to wade through them. And that was tricky, wasn't it? Because do you know that's
Mm.
one when I did Manchester last year, I got cramp because I had to do like a dead stop because someone stopped in front of me. And you know when you're moving at not speed, because I don't really know what it feels like to run at speed compared to you, but like when you're moving fast and you have to stop, you know, quickly, that can really you can get really injured that way, can't you? And that's
Yeah.
when I
Big time.
first experienced my first ever cramp. That was under 20 mile, 22 mile, I think, or I think it was around Sale in Manchester. And I just remember that hamstring, that feeling of
See,
cramp, and it is dreadful. I wouldn't.
see,
It was horrible.
When you mentioned this before, I find that crazy. The first time you ever experienced cramp, how many marathons in was that? Manchester? What was that? Number 3?
Yeah, my third. So
So
before that,
you've
I'd
done
done
2
Brighton and
marathons
Amsterdam.
and never felt cramp, which is crazy to me because I've never finished a marathon without cramp.
Well, I'd hit the wall well before, I'd hit the wall about 4 mile in Brighton. And then like Amsterdam was about 10. So I don't know. I think I'd slowed right down before, a lot of people will start feeling cramp, won't they? About, I don't know, 16 mile onwards. But yeah, I don't know if I was just fortunate those 2 times I did it, but I think it's no coincidence that Manchester, I felt it because I was moving a lot faster. And I remember thinking it on the day, like, I've never moved this quickly, like for this amount of time. The wheels are going to fall off at some point. And I don't know. I don't think cramp is completely, self-inflicted, but I was starting to think quite negatively during that Manchester run because I started to look at my watch and I started to notice the times were slightly slower. The splits were getting second by second slower and slower. And yeah, that's one thing maybe we can say for another podcast because that we'll be here all night talking about that. But about that mental belief that I've never been able to stay positive during anything over a 10K the whole way, really. Even the race we did together, I was ready to call it quits at, 11, 12 miles because it was too hard.
I did notice your demeanour change after about 10 miles during that race.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say 10 minutes. Yeah. Conversations rise up, doesn't it? And the smiles turn into frowns, turn into grimaces. And I think the negativity comes in because it's hard. Running is hard, man. Yeah, and it makes you question everything, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I've had dark times in races where everything's not going to plan and it just feels horrendous and your head just wants to tell you to stop. But generally, well, since I've started taking it more serious, when it gets difficult, I always say, come on, you've worked hard enough or you've worked hard to get to this place. Nothing should be stopping me from getting all the way to the finish. I've never in a race thought I'm not going to finish this. I'm always going to finish. I might end up running a lot slower than I want to, but I am always going to get to that finish line. If I cross that start line, I will cross that finish line no matter what.
I like that because that's exactly why I turn up to races. I mean, maybe it's a thing. Maybe the closer to I guess an elite you become, the more you start to think, okay, my body could potentially fall to pieces here if I do an extra 3 miles at this effort. So I do get it. I do understand why people call it quits, halfway through a marathon or whatever, because to some people, it's just not worth it. But I'm with you on that.
I was listening to a podcast the other day and they were talking about trying to qualify for the Olympics marathon and trying to hit that qualifying time. And they were saying if it doesn't go to plan during their target marathon, they would call it a day. So they're not putting that full stress of a full marathon race onto their body. So they can then try and enter another one in a couple of weeks to try and get that time and give it another go, which I completely understand that when you're at that level and you are going for those stupidly high times where you're trying to qualify for the Olympics and it possibly a once in a lifetime thing, I completely understand dropping out of a race. But when you're at our level, I'm not sure that just because it doesn't look good on Strava or your power of 10, I'm not sure it's worth not finishing a race.
Yeah. I just love medals. I'm like a magpie. I love shiny things. And that's another question. Maybe we can ask our listeners. if you could choose one thing for the rest of your races, would it be a medal or a T-shirt or some sort of merch? What would you say?
Yeah, I prefer the medal. Number one, because it's something you can actually display properly,
Yeah,
rather than it just going on a coat hanger in your cupboard or folded up into a box. And secondly, and this is just me personally, but running a clothing printing company, I've got enough clothes.
yeah, I can
I've got
imagine.
more t-shirts than I can possibly ever use. So
Yeah,
yeah, I don't really need more t-shirts. It's nice to have t-shirts. And when I first started doing races, I loved having a t-shirt at the end. But if there's a choice, which a lot of races have started doing now, saying,
yeah,
do you want a t-shirt? If you do, it's an extra, I don't know, 14 quid on top of the entry price, which
yeah.
is mad to start off with, because entry prices have got ridiculous. But yeah, I would always go for the medal, I think, but
I would as well.
preferably a metal one rather than a wooden one. But wooden ones are just as nice, but they're not, are they?
More eco-friendly, apparently, aren't they?
Yeah, see, I'm not sure I agree with that
Yeah.
reasoning behind it, because metal can be recycled.
And wood has to be really burnt to or incinerated to be disposed of
Yeah.
completely. Yeah. But I did read somewhere that I can't remember who I saw this was doing this. But someone was asking for all those medals that you've got under your bed or in a shoebox, whatever, because they're gonna give them a new lease of life to like junior races and things. So I think that's quite a good idea, because I think
Mm,
there are companies out there that can, I don't know how, but melt them down and then reform them somehow. And that is quite good. So I think it might have been Runner, as in RUNR, Runner, who were doing that. So, but anyway, yeah, I,
yeah.
I, I would
What?
choose a medal every time.
Yeah, I was going to say, what would you choose out of the two?
Mm. Mainly because the technical teas they give out are crap most of the time, and the nipple chafe is
Yeah. Well,
horrific on most of them.
that's a strange one as well. What you saying that, because it's possible that you didn't experience the time of races when they didn't give you a technical t-shirt. The finishers t-shirts
Really,
were always just a standard cotton t-shirt, and they were a cheap cotton t-shirt that was just screen printed badly.
fruit of the
But
loom.
yeah, but they weren't technical t-shirts, so they weren't something you could use running. It
Yeah,
was something to wear when you went to bed or something like that. So the
yeah,
fact they changed it to technical t-shirts was brilliant.
yeah.
But
There are a couple that I've had. Like I really like the Chester one I got, because that's a long sleeve. So you do the race in October, you're heading into 6 months of winter then. So that is genius marketing from Chester, because you're gonna reach for that top like for a
yeah,
lot of training sessions.
yeah,
So, but
and
that's
it
quite
will
good.
be
That's
on
quite good.
top, and it will be on top, so all the logo and design will still be on display, rather than
Yeah,
them giving you a t-shirt which you're going to put underneath another top.
yeah. I think those smaller races, I don't know. I just feel like uptake is starting to dwindle a little bit on t-shirts. And if I was creating a race, I probably wouldn't even bother offering one. I mean, I understand why, because it's free advertising for several hundred, maybe thousands of people advertising your race whenever they're doing a run. But yeah, I think there's probably other ways to land on people's, land in front of people these days. You can just spend just as much money on Facebook advertising if you're a business, couldn't you?
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah,
So
well, the world of Instagram is an amazing place for advertising. It's
yeah,
amazing how many people you can actually get to just through people
yeah,
sharing your content and stuff
yeah.
online.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, we were gonna talk today, weren't we, about training plans
yes.
a little bit. So, what was the mainly because I can't remember what we're going to say about them. What we're going to say about them?
You were saying about where do training plans come from, and who writes our training plans, and would we ever buy a training plan? That's the big question. So my training plans come from a place called My Little Brain, and I genuinely, last marathon block, I sort of was winging it. I knew before I started, I knew the maximum mileage I wanted to hit on my peak week, and I knew sort of the style of training I wanted to do on a Sunday on my long runs, where I was putting marathon pace into my long runs. But the rest of it, I was making up as I went along. Even my Sunday runs, what I actually did for the Sunday long run with those marathon pace blocks, I was deciding what I was going to do on the Saturday before I went out on the Sunday. The rest of my training, so Tuesdays and Thursdays every week, I go down to B&R training with all the rest of the club and our group. And Andy, who runs our training group, our coach, who comes and runs with us, he always puts together a training plan of what we're doing each week and what session we're going to do on a Tuesday and a Thursday. And I trust Andy. He knows what he's doing. He's a qualified coach. He knows what we should be doing to improve our running. So I put my trust in him on a Tuesday and Thursday. So I do a couple of miles.
If I'm a 6-hour marathoner, can I turn up to these Tuesday and Thursday track sessions? You know, is it for, you know, as long as I'm in a club, I mean?
Yeah.
So will there be something that for everyone?
So in our group, we've got people of all abilities. We've got, at the moment, we're out on the roads. I haven't actually started training with them yet since my injury. I think I'm going to leave it till February before I start doing proper sessions. So I've just been joining them for a warm up at the moment. But there's people of all abilities, and in the summer we'll do track sessions and stuff. But all of the sessions are designed so you can run them at your own pace. So you know what your effort pace is, and a lot of the time, if we do reps on like the track, for instance, we'll do, we're doing 800 meter reps. Andy will say, right, you should be doing those 800 meter reps at your 5k pace. Or if we're doing 400 reps, try and do them at your 3k pace or something like that. So those paces are very different for each person that is running. So there'll be a group of us who are all running to a similar pace, and then there'll be another group that are running to a similar pace. There'll be people who are doing it individually because their pace is completely different. So the sessions are always tailored to everybody, so it's inclusive no matter how fast you run, which I think is really good because we're running as a team, as Bromsgrove and Redditch Athletic Club. So it's great to be running with people, and you don't necessarily have to be the same pace or the same ability to be part of the team.
Yeah, that's really good. Because I imagine that feeling, because I'm not in a club, but I imagine that feeling of camaraderie and that feeling of togetherness is everything.
It's amazing. Joining a club has changed my running completely. I have improved as a runner tenfold since joining the club.
Really?
It's crazy. Yeah. Number one, because of the training sessions, I actually have learned quite a lot about what you should be doing and how different sessions can improve like your speed and your effort and your endurance, but also running with people. Running was always like back when I first started, and then when I started again during COVID, running was always a solo thing. I went out to run so I could have some time on my own, just let my mind wander, and just have some me time. But it's amazing how much running with people changes your perspective on running. And I now go out for runs with people all the time. And number one, the time goes stupidly fast. So, like, you can go out for a long run with people on a Sunday and you won't realize how far you've gone because you're too busy chatting to everybody that you're running with. But also, it just feels easier because you are around people. You've not got that solo slog where you're constantly thinking about, oh man, this is feeling difficult, and looking at your watch constantly.
Yeah. It's I think like the club, I imagine. By the way, I didn't ask you about cross country.
Oh,
how did it go last week?
Man,
are you still top of the league?
B&R are still top of the league. Yes, we actually managed to clean sweep the race 3 on Saturday. So that
Amazing.
was pretty cool. So our A team came first in the A team results. Our B team, which I actually managed to score in, which I was quite pleased about that. We managed to get first place in the B team. And then our Masters A team, so everybody over 40, we came first in the A team, and the Masters B team came first in the Masters B teams. So we had a quick, clean sweep across the board.
Was it a home fixture as well?
Yeah, it was. So it was at Redditch. So yeah, it was wicked.
That must have been brilliant.
Oh, yeah, it was ace. Yeah, the team turned out, which was brilliant. We had loads of people running. One of our lads actually won the race as well. Lad called Alex Adams. He won the race, which is amazing to do it at a home fixture. And I think our top 5 runners were in the top 15. So they ran really, really well.
Serious then. That's amazing. So maybe because, like, I was going to say, because there will be a lot of people listening who, like me, have never done cross country or just can't do it because, you know, we're not in a club or whatever. Do you know, last time I did cross country, I was in year 6, did cross country and was coming last. It was after school and all the clubs, you know, from Droitwich and Witton and some Redditch clubs came. I was coming last at, it was a cold February day. I faked a asthma attack. I was like, I can't handle it.
What?
Second lap, I was like,
and you dropped out?
Yeah, I was like, oh, my asthma's really bad. Can you call me mum? So I had to go home. I was like, there's nothing wrong with me, but I just couldn't handle it. So that was my DNF.
And was that just because you were coming last and you didn't want to come last?
Exactly. The shame of coming last. I couldn't handle it. Couldn't handle it on the playground. But when you're like a war hero and, you know, you nearly died because it was an asthma attack, you know, you're looked at a little bit like a hero on the playground. So
brilliant.
Yeah.
And now you're broadcasting it to the world so everybody knows.
The time as a coward. Yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. But no, the last time I did cross country was then. But like, if you could, so with your marathon training block, how does cross country fit into it? Because is it a completely different way of running? I imagine it is. You've got a different kit for starters.
Yeah, it is a completely different way of running. One of the things which is brilliant about cross country is pace goes out the window. It's nothing to do with pace, because you could run the same cross country course 2 days in a row and it would be completely different race. So even if you put the same effort in, your times and your paces are going to be completely different, just depending on the ground and how it is. So you don't have to worry about pace. It's more about effort and positioning. So you constantly, I know I said last week that you're not racing people, but whilst you're doing cross country, you are trying to put in a race effort and trying to catch and pick off those other clubs and try and make up as many places as you can. So I'm constantly during the race just thinking, right, how close is that next person in front of me? Let's catch them. And then once we're past them, can I catch the next person and try not to lose any places and have any people take over you?
So are your strengths and weaknesses as a runner the same strengths and weaknesses in cross country? Like if you're good at hills on a road, you know, can you sort of rely on yourself to that's one of your strengths?
Yeah, I would say yes. If you're good on the hills on the road, it will help you in cross country, but it won't necessarily make you faster at cross country.
Okay. Yeah.
There are a lot of people who are much faster than me on the track or on the road who I could possibly run faster than in cross country because my endurance over the long distances is better. So there are people who are very fast over short distances who struggle on cross country because it's a completely different way of running. Number one, it's 10K, so it's a decent long distance to start off with. But secondly, it's not the same surface. I guess you know this from the difference between trail running and road running. The surface just changes the way that you run and the way you're able to run. But with cross country, when it gets muddy and then you throw hills in along with that, or you throw in a stream crossing where you're running through water and you don't quite know what's underneath your feet.
All the best with your 5-minute mile in through that. Yeah,
exactly. So like I would say you've got to be strong to run cross country. You've got to have that endurance and you've got to have that cardio fitness.
Right.
And I think having that longer distance training does really help. Because the mud on Saturday was, it was brutal. When I first got down there, I was like, it's not as bad as it was last year. Because last year there were some big, huge puddles. They were like small lakes of water on the fields. And this year it wasn't that bad. And I thought, conditions will be better. It'll be nicer to run in. As soon as all the runners started running through the fields, it just got boggy. Yeah. And there were points where there was mud up to halfway up your calf in places. And it's just proper energy sapping trying to run through it. And
it's almost always on a Saturday, right?
Yes. So cross country league is pretty much always on a Saturday.
So on a Sunday in April or in March, you've got to do a 20-mile long run after that.
Well, the cross country season finishes in February.
Right.
So the last cross country that I will race this year will be the Nationals, which is where's it at this year? It is where they do the V Festival. Where's that? Western Park, in Shropshire. So the Nationals is there this year because it's the Midlands' turn to host it. And that's on the 24th of Feb on the Saturday. So that will be the last cross country that I do this year, and then it will be focus on marathon training properly.
That sounds like it will be. I can just visualize the start of it. You know that scene at The Lion King, you know, the stampede. I can just visualize, you know, I would be Mufasa and I would be probably gone arse over tit within 10 seconds and I'd be getting trampled on from all those runners. And do you ever get spiked? You must get someone standing on your toe because those lugs, those spikes.
I've never been spiked myself, but I have seen people who have been spiked, and it can be quite nasty because they are. I mean, I went down on Saturday and I had 15 mil spikes in. I did change to 12s because the conditions were a bit better than I thought. But 12 mil spikes are pretty deadly if you're going to get hit with them. I know people who have accidentally spiked themselves as well by tripping over things or just getting stuck in the mud and spiking themselves in the leg.
Oh God, that sounds horrible.
But as you said, the start of nationals is crazy. It's like going into battle. So do you know, like in Braveheart,
hold,
where they storm. It's like that. The gun goes, and like people down the other end of the start straight said as soon as the gun went and we started running, you could feel the ground moving because there's that many people pounding the floor.
Does everyone go all off together, or is there a women's race and a men's? And
there is a women's race, so there's junior races, and there's age group races up to I think they go up to under 20s or under 23s, I think possibly. But a lot of the time, I think in the nationals here we have under 17s is the oldest one, and then 18s and older going to the seniors races. So there's separate women's and men's races. So there's all the junior races, but the senior men's is all club runners 18 and over. So you get a massive wide range again of abilities. So as I was saying, like club members, when we're doing sessions, there's a range of abilities in the cross countries as well. There's people who are running. I think the winners on Saturday, I think they did it in about 33 minutes, something like that. And
10K cross country.
I know, yeah. I know.
I couldn't even drive that. That's ridiculous.
But then there's guys at the back. So I think the guy who finished last did it in like just over an hour.
I know how he feels. He should have had an asthma attack.
Yeah. So there's a huge range of abilities running. So it's brilliant. But yeah, at that nationals, it's mad because it is so many people running at the same time and all setting off at the same time.
But also you're jostling for position, not just for placing, but literally for oxygen, just to get daylight between you and the person next to you. Because I imagine you got, for the first half a mile, well, what do I know? Maybe 5K, I don't know. You've probably got people all around you, haven't you? Until the field starts to thin out.
Yeah.
And any hesitation there could cause an absolute chaotic start.
100%. And at last year's nationals, it proper funneled at the end of the start straight. So you had a huge wide field of people all aiming for a course that was probably a quarter of the width of the start line.
God.
So you've got everybody charging for this point. And when it funneled, it was quite hairy. There were people dropping to the floor. I fully had to like put my hands out in front of me and like hold myself up against the person in front because people behind me were pushing me.
That's crazy.
It was mad.
Yeah,
but great fun.
I don't know how we ended up talking about cross country. By the way,
I know. I fully love cross country. It's great, and I wouldn't miss it now. I'm gutted that I missed 3 cross country races this year because of my injury, and I'm absolutely gutted about it because I love racing them.
Do you think it aids? Do you think it really helps your marathon training?
I think so, in the fact that it gives you that endurance and strength training.
Yeah.
So like, if you were just running on the road, you'd go and run some hills and do some hill reps or go and do a hilly route to build your strength over the thing. Go and run through a muddy field where every step takes twice as much effort as it does on the road. And you'll build up some strength and some endurance through that.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, it does sound fun. And is nationals an open thing, or is that just for club runners?
It's just for club runners. So it's anybody who's in a UK athletics registered club.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's The ones that we run in are the English nationals. So there are separate Scottish and Welsh and Northern Irish nationals as well. But as is the English one. So it's all clubs from England. But there's a huge amount of clubs and a huge amount of runners that do it. Have you ever thought about joining a club?
Yeah, I think about it very often, but I always bottle it. I always find a reason not to. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. I think I'm similar to you with I love running on my own, but now since Parkrun really, so it's been a couple of years, I've really started to enjoy running with others. And yeah, I think it's going to be time. I think 2024 is the year for me to join. I won't speculate who I'm thinking of joining, but yeah, I think so, because things like cross country, I would like. It just sort of opens doors for you, I bet, doesn't it? And
yeah. Well, you enter races that you would never have entered if you weren't a club runner, because there are so many races and things that are only open to UK athletics registered runners.
Right. Yeah. No, it's definitely in my thoughts, and I really like the idea of track sessions, because to this day, I've only ever run 2 track sessions. I think one was Dudley Parkrun, which is 600 meters of track either side of a trail, start and finish, and the Amsterdam Marathon, where you do the first 200 and then you do the last 200. So they're the only track sessions I've ever done. And
I need to get you down, don't I? And we'll do a track session together and put you through your paces.
I would really quite enjoy that. I think, because I think I'd change my mindset a little bit. And but speaking of Parkrun, as I know we haven't really spoke about it, I literally mentioned it once. Just because I'm aware of the time, and once again we said we'd do a 20-minute podcast, and here we are, 55 minutes in. I've got a little quiz for you. What should we call it?
Last week we ended on a piece of trivia, and this time you've actually prepared a quiz.
Yes, so we should call this something like Brett's podcast Parkrun quiz. So all these questions, we could have the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. We should mix that in. I've got 5 Parkrun questions for you. So see how you do. Right, okay.
Go on then.
This is a 2-parter. What is the first and last Parkrun in the UK alphabetically?
Oh.
You just a heads up. You probably won't get the first one.
Aberdeen.
Well, that's close. I think that's 3rd or 4th. It was a place called Aberbeeg, which is in South Wales, but it's now been trumped by Abbey Park in Leicester, which has done 37 parkruns. But the last one, I think you can get it. Process of elimination.
Is it a Z?
No, there's only one Z, and I think that's in Poland. And there's no X either in the world anywhere.
So it's got to be a Y. So York.
Bingo! Got it.
Yes.
Okay, I will accept an answer within 10 seconds here.
Okay.
If you don't know the exact thing. What is the male world record parkrun time?
This is Andy Butchart.
Correct, Amundo.
And he took it from come on, Brett, what's his name? The guy who runs the running channel.
Fellow Baldy, yeah.
What is his name?
Andy Baddeley.
That's it, Andy Baddeley, yes. So he used to have it. He had it for years. And Andy Butchart, although I'm going to say Andy Butchart is a little bit cheaty, because he had pacers. He had pacers dotted around the course who dropped out and came in to help pace him throughout the race. Well, I say race, throughout the parkrun.
Whoa, scandal! You heard it here first. It doesn't count.
And so, but it's got to be.
We'll get him on next week for an apology video.
I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's got to be 15, 20.
13:45. And that was at Silvernose Parkrun in Edinburgh last
June. It was up in Scotland. Yeah. Because that's his Parkrun debut as well. He'd never run Parkrun before.
That's my first one. I did it in 26 minutes, I think. So, yeah. Cheers, Andy. And so, what's the female Parkrun world record?
Oh yes, this has been broken about 4 or 5 times this year.
Most recently, December 2023.
Yes.
In Ireland, in Belfast.
So if the men's is 13 something, it's got to be 14. I'm going to say 14:40.
No, too quick. It's 15:13.
Oh, okay.
And that was by Ciara McGeehan.
Yes, it was.
Pretty sure she's an Irish runner. I think she did well at the European Champs in Budapest. I think she did quite well in 1500, maybe, or something like that. Okay, next one.
That was terrible guessing by me. Anyway, that was terrible guessing. I guess 15 something for the bloke, and then 14 something for the female.
Yeah. We'll just edit that out. It's fine.
Yeah.
If you swap them around, you're not too far off.
Exactly.
Okay, what is the global average finish time of Parkrun? I will accept the closest minute to the closest minute.
Are we talking Parkrun and Park Walk, or just Parkrun? But I suppose it all goes into.
Just googled it.
All goes into the same what's called results anyway, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Average. It's got to be average finish time. I would say 45.
Average.
Because of all the people walking it is going to bring it down. So, but by the way you just said that, I'm going to change my answer.
I can only accept your first answer. If you thought that your 5K world records were a shocker, the answer is 29 minutes and 13 seconds.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's the average finish time of Parkrun. Yeah.
What
since records began as well?
What of all time, all Parkruns ever?
Yeah. I mean, I had to just Google this, but I'm pretty sure that's what it says on the Parkrun website. So if you go on Parkrun Home, Parkrun. Did I say Parkrun? Am I from Nottingham? I'm from Parkrun. All right, duck. If you go on Parkrun,
when you go and have a bacon bap afterwards.
Yeah, that's afterwards. Yeah. If you go on the website and scroll down to the bottom, it says all the world records, which brings me on to my next one. Question 4. The highest ever age graded performance, just quickly, how would you sum up age grading for anyone that doesn't know?
I haven't got a clue myself, to be honest, but I think it is how quick your time is across all of the times registered in your age group. So it's the higher your percentage, the quicker you are in your age group.
Yeah, it gives you like a level playing field against people that are really fast, basically. What is the highest ever age graded performance? Oh no, sorry. Let me rephrase this. The highest ever age graded performance was in 2012 by Forja Singh. He finished in 38 minutes and 34 seconds with an age graded score of 179%. But how old was he at the time of the run?
Hang on, he run sub 40 minutes.
38, 34.
Yeah. So
and his age grade score was 179.
was 179%.
So let me just put this into
So
context,
he's
right?
got to be.
I was going to say, if
To,
I smash a parkrun,
yeah,
like, and I do it in 20, 21 minutes, 20 and a half minutes, 20 minutes 30, for me, that's smashing it. That puts me at about 65 or 70% age group. So
I think
he has gone.
My highest age grading, I think, was 80%.
Yeah.
I think is my highest ever. So he's gone 179%. He's got to be in his 70s then. He's got to be in his 70s.
70, what's your final answer?
75.
I've got something I prepared earlier. Hang on, just bear with me. Just chat amongst yourselves. Sorry, just hit the microphone in my haste. Okay. Forja Singh, born April the 1st, 1911, is a Sikh marathon runner who is now over 100. He is originally from India, but has lived in the UK since 1992. He's a world record holder in his age bracket in various sporting categories. He's Britain's most popular Sikh in his hundreds. He has set various marathon records over the 90s and over his hundreds, over 90s and over hundreds category. 2004, he was featured in advertising campaign for Adidas. 2000, and he since holds 8 world records. And also his date of birth, because he was born in India, I think, has never, ever been clarified. So even he doesn't know how officially old he is. And he's actually done he doesn't speak English, this guy. And he's even done, I think he still lives in England. He's still alive, I think. And I think he's even done a few park runs up in Birmingham. And it says here, he's got a few quotes here. Mostly elderly people in Britain eat a rich diet, don't move about a lot, and travel in cars, and that makes them sick, he says. He wasn't prepared to go the same way, so he took up jogging to be initially beating the boredom of sitting at home. This is in his 70s or 80s. I never thought of running a marathon then, but slowly it grew. I'm careful about different foods. My diet is simple. Simple fulka, chapati, dal, lentils, green vegetables, yogurt and milk. I don't touch parathas, pakoras, rice or any other fried food. I take lots of water and tea with ginger. The geezer is about 110 and he's still running 5Ks.
If he was born in 1911 and it's 2024, he's 113.
He did that race on the 31st, that parkrun on the 31st of March in 2012. And it says here that his unofficial date of birth is the 1st of April, 1911, which would have made him 100 years old on the day of running that parkrun.
That's mad.
And he did it in 38:34.
I know, yeah. He did it in sub 40 minutes.
That's crazy, isn't it? That's so good. What a man. Let's get him on the pod. Let's get him on. Right, last question. The highest number of attendees last week on the 13th of January was Bushy Park, 1,495 people. But how many people attended the fewest, which was open access before you say? Because apparently there's one in like a prison, which only one person goes to.
Ever?
No, this was just last week. So this wasn't the record. Yeah.
2 runners.
That would have been good. But unfortunately, the answer is 13. And that was at
13.
Hafan Porthweli, which is in North Wales. And it's had 148 events. And it averages 47 finishes a week. I don't know where the other 30 odd were. Maybe they're just too cold for them.
Can you imagine that? Lining up on a start line at Parkrun and there only being 13 people, 12
13 people. So this could be a regular feature, or maybe I'll do one a month or something of Brett's Parkrun podcast quiz challenge. So there you go. We've all learned something.
And I'll be terrible every single time.
Oh, you can't beat a guess the question, can you? And they're like miles out. So yeah,
at least give me a chance next time. Make it an A or B question.
Yeah, which Redditch-based parkrun? You'll know that one.
Yeah. Right. So I think we possibly need to leave the rest of the training plans chat until our next episode because I've just looked at our recording time.
Yeah, sorry guys, my
and
bad.
We are now at 100, an hour and nearly 9 minutes. So yeah, we probably need to end this one, don't we? And save the rest for next time.
Yeah,
so
but that was good though. Quite enjoyed just chatting, a bit of running chat.
It's good fun.
Quite enjoyed that.
As lots of people have said, us runners could talk all night, couldn't we? If we didn't actually have that recording time in the top corner, I don't think we would even realise we'd been here for an hour. So
yeah,
but amazing, nice one, dude. I enjoyed that, and thank you very much to all of you who have tuned in, who, whether you're watching or whether you are just listening. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. And we will see you on the next one. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys, and catch you next episode.
Yeah, nice one, guys. Cheers.
Bye.